today was like today was just kind of like it was a cool day. It was a chill day, but we pretty much I went to see the movie at the Alamo Draft House.
Uh-huh.
And that's like we've talked about it before, and I've just started. This is the second time I've been there. There's one here in the city, and went to it. And while we were waiting for the movie,
sorry,
what the fuck was that? The fuck was that?
I grabbed my tea and it was fucking way hotter than I thought. It just like burned my fingerprints off, almost like Men in Black style.
And you just did like it wasn't even like a it was like a literally like an old man like, hey, my hip.
Oh, my dick got stuck in the vending machine. Like that kind of reaction.
Again. Oh yeah, Grandpa.
It's not a coincidence, I tell you.
I swear to God, bro. Yeah.
I found one of those vending machines actually the other day where something literally had fallen and then got itself kind of stuck so that you could like shake it and try to get it going. And I was kind of shaking the vending machine. It's like a natural reaction. You see that there? It's like, okay, it's only $1 worth of something. And it's like, do you even need it? No. Would you ever even buy it on your own? No. But there's something free stuck in a vending machine and I have to try to get it.
There's every once in a while you hear those statistics like, I don't know, who knows how true it is, but like, more people die trying to shake a vending machine that falls on top of them than there are like bear attacks in the woods from people.
And shark attacks and all that other stuff.
You hear that, and part of me thinks like that can't be fucking real. But at the same time, then I'm like, well, you know what? A lot of people think Obama created ISIS because Donald Trump said so. So maybe it is.
Yeah, I think it actually is true, though. I think they've had multiple statistics. It's not like one of those ones where just some couple guys saying, like, you know what gets people more than anything else? Vending machines, I tell you what. Those things are mighty dangerous, more dangerous than a pack of wolves or a bear or a shark. All kinds of violence can happen from a vending machine.
It's like one of those things.
Bunch of vending machine teamsters.
Well, I just imagine, like, do they just have, like... I know I've seen like stickers on vending machines now of just like an X through somebody shaking it, but I never really hear any stories about it. I'm sure if I went looking online, I could find something, but you never see anything like that in the 6 o'clock news. Just like, as expected today, another vending machine accident. They just need to put put those things like maybe that's maybe that's why you see some vending machines kind of gates now. You know what I mean? Kind of like behind bars to a certain extent. Like who knows, might get out.
Exactly. You can't trust these vending machines. They're like a wild animal. Well, that's why I didn't shake this one very much. And then when I realized that like the way that the bottle was designed is it was like concave, like super far up, so there was no way that it was going to pop off. I'm like, no. I know how this goes down. I don't want to be that guy.
I'm just like I'm just sitting here looking at the Skype like any minute he's going to pick up
I think what happens though, it's there's the guy that when they spend $1 and then like it's the only dollar they got in their pocket and it falls out and gets stuck, then they're just like, what the fuck? I mean, come on, what the fuck? And they start shaking, they just get all primal and start beating it, and then they're like, okay, I'm gonna try to Jurassic Park this shit and fucking kick it in. And then they go to kick it, and then the thing rocks back and then comes forward and like, oh fuck!
Jurassic Park it? What, like fucking like Vince Vaughn and Lost World? Oh,
no, it's in the third one. It's when Billy. This is a really big deal like moment because I remember when I think it was in the eighth grade, it was like a literal entire day devoted to arguing about how Billy kicked it in. Did he walk in and kick it? Did he run in and kick it? Did he just stand there and kick it to get that vending machine? Which pretty much after that day for the rest of my life just sounds like the most retarded argument, but I remember that thing was fucking serious. That was like the most heated debate over nothing. Literally nothing.
Well,
but this was also back in the time too. Nobody could pull out a phone and fucking check to see what Billy did. You know what I mean? You could just argue it, and then you can go home and watch the VHS copy and try to figure it out.
Who was right? Just let me ask you that.
That I have no idea. I can't even remember what side I was on, like which part of that. But I just remember, like 6 guys fucking arguing for like an hour and a half.
I'm gonna take a shot in the dark here. All right, I'm gonna put in JP. I'm on a search engine.
He walks into it.
JP3, Billy. Okay, I was thinking maybe it just might. Let's see Jurassic Park 3. I'm just curious to see if enough people have debated about this in the past right here.
It's a good question to ask. I'll tell you what really happens, though, is because Billy walks into it and kicks it. He walks into frame, kicks it.
Billy Barron's death. Billy kicks. No. Okay, yeah, never mind. All right, I was just curious. I was wondering. I'm sure maybe if I typed it in, something would probably pop up. Maybe even that clip on YouTube, but who knows?
Yeah, I guess we were original when it came down to that. But
there is sometimes those things where you just like, this is stupid and insignificant, but I'm surprised it pops up on Bing or Google. You know?
Exactly. But yeah. So this is the Old Man Orange podcast where we talk about arguing whether Billy kicked it, walked in and kicked it, or ran in and kicked it. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Ryan Dunigan. But anyway, me and Wes went to the Alamo Draft House today, and there is in the name. They serve food, they serve alcohol. It's just this movie theater. It has this kind of like old-timey movie theater look. And while you're sitting there, I mean, they're very strict about no talking, no cell phones. Once the movie starts, you can walk in during the trailers, but once the movie starts, doors are closed.
Like fucking bar gates comes down.
Exactly.
Armed guards stand by the side.
They actually have people in there that they have people in there kind of monitoring the crowd, making sure they don't do nothing. I mean, none of them looks really huge or big, but I'm sure they got that guy. Maybe it's kind of like a Roadhouse thing. Like maybe he's the cooler. He's the one. They got someone just like rocking the sways look, you know, arms crossed, leaning against the wall, one of his legs against the wall too, just like browsing it, you know, just like
slightly bobbing his head to the tunes of like whatever like the soundtrack of the film is.
So like to the Secret Life of Pets. Yeah. No, anyway, no, but like we went to go see whatchamacallit, Sausage Party today. Mm-hmm. And while we were watching the movie, Wes leans over and says like, "Hey, want to go half and half on like a 6-pack of taquitos?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure." So he orders it, and what they bring it out like in this bucket, in a metal bucket, in ice, and then all the beer.
Why is there ice for taquitos?
The beers.
Oh, I thought you were talking about fucking like taquitos, like the rolled tacos.
Oh, no.
I was like, that's a new way to eat those. Like, they don't even cook them. You just eat them frozen like a popsicle.
Very, very cutting edge. Very new way to go about it. Yeah, no. Well, why waste 2 minutes in a microwave when you just eat it straight out of the box? Yeah. No, 6-pack of taquitos, and they come in like in a bucket of ice. They're all opened, which I thought like, oh, well, they're just gonna bring out a 6-pack or whatever, and they just literally, it looks all fancy, almost something kind of like out of like it looked all like, I'm not gonna say fancy because it's taquitos, but you know what I mean. It looked like something you see at a barbecue, and then the thing about it is when they're all opened, and they had impaled into the taps down into the beer. So I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool, you know. So as we're drinking these, we're watching the movie, and then we're just gonna like, oh, we're in the third act, gotta finish these things up. So then after that, we ended up like going and getting some Mexican food, got another beer, and then after that, there's this really
now
cool...
I got the actual taquitos.
Not those, but I got actually a California burrito, which is, I didn't know about it till Wes showed me, but it was a burrito with, you know, California, so guac, of course, steak, and then French fries.
It always sounds sad.
Yeah, you know, like, total white guy.
Total white. Anything that has the word California in it. I'm always iffy about ordering anything that has the word California in it because I don't know what it is. That always just comes across as like, this must be the tourist one. It's kind of like almost like if you get California rolls at a sushi place, it's just like, oh, they're not. He's clearly not going to, you know, go too worldly there. He's just going to take, you know, the simple, easy choice. And then, yeah, when they have those at Mexican restaurants, like the California burrito, it's like, there's your safe white person burrito.
Yeah. Well, I still got some salsa for it and all that shit. Yeah, this has to be fucking interesting. But anyway, no, just to clarify, just to come back there, I didn't know what that was. I never heard about it till we got there. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll try that out. We had a beer at that, and then after that, we had another beer at another bar down the road. Came home, watched Batman Assault on Arkham just to kind of remind me what I wish Suicide Squad was, and then I woke up and here I am. So I'm not exactly entirely here today. A very long way to saying I'm still coming off of a buzz right now. All right.
That's okay.
So I may not be as like witty as usual, as limited as that is.
I'm gonna say this, like my charm level is gonna be down. So like if you were expecting to be real top of it, like
just keep your expectations low, and you might walk away like impressed, like, oh, it was better than I thought it was. Was it good? No, but better than I assumed.
Which realistically, if this is someone's first like podcast of the Old Man Orange, they're probably like, I have no idea what this show is.
They're talking about if the guy kicks some shit in on fucking Jurassic Park. One of them took the time to check this out on Bing. Then he goes on talking about burritos. What the fuck is going on in this show, man?
But Will, what do you think about Sausage Party?
Is it Sausage Party or Sausage Fest or I'm already
Sausage Party.
Sausage Party. I liked it. I figured I'd like it. I was really surprised to see you liked it because I know you have a burning hatred for Seth Rogen, and I'm gonna tell this to you right now. For other people, this may not be a big deal, but for me, telling you this is like a coal miner's son coming up to his dad and telling him that like he's fucking the Filipino kid down the road. This is like, I actually like Seth Rogen, dude. I think I like his movies. He doesn't sell a movie for me, but whenever he's in them, I think he does a pretty good job, and I usually like the movies he writes. So yeah. I know you're not a Seth Rogen fan, but just got to say that, and I thought this one did a pretty damn good job. He didn't direct this one, but he just wrote it and voiced the main character, and I thought it was a pretty good job.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those ones where, like, he was, like, one of the writers and, one of the producers and so on, but there's a bunch of other people as well, too. And I think what it was, it's like, this is the movie where it's like, it's really like the perfect Seth Rogen movie. And I think it's like a perfect comedy. I don't think there's anything wrong with it whatsoever. Like, all the way through, great story, great concept. Because the downfall of Seth Rogen, it's not saying he's not a guy who doesn't have good concepts, but lots of times he ends up ruining a good concept because he'll just throw in a bunch of dumb jokes. He'll repeat his same jokes over 5 or 6 times. And then he always wants to make himself the coolest character in the movie. And in this movie, obviously he's the main character, so I guess it's still you could still say, okay, well, yeah, he's still making himself the main character. But there's nothing about that character that's like, he's like, oh, yeah, I'm the hot dog that bangs every other hot dog. Look how cool I am. It's, you know what I mean? It's none of that.
Well, yeah, wait till the end for that part.
But, but that's different there. It's not like that's everybody's involved in there.
Spoiler alerts ahead.
So I think that, and then maybe I don't know what it was. It's just like he didn't write himself in as being so cool that almost made it's almost like his ego finally dropped, and you could just finally make a movie and then have all these great jokes in it, never ruin any of the jokes by doing them way too many times, don't put the stupid pop culture references that he always likes to throw in there, and then it ended up just being fantastic the whole way through.
Now this one, like, I kind of heard about it beforehand that it was actually an allegory about religion, and early on the movie lets you know that. And it is, I don't know, I have a lot of the same opinions of this movie. I feel like I'm not angry about religion, but this kind of sums up all my feelings about religion by this point in my life,
Well, this is what I liked about the film a lot, is it had a lot of depth in it. It had a good message in it, and it had a great message in it by using stereotypes, and then coming out being like, hey, at the very end of the movie, it's like, we can all get along. Doesn't matter what our necessary differences are. We're all different people. Mm-hmm. And then also even religion. I kind of like how the whole point of the movie is almost like these people all kind of like, they got this religious thing going on. They all believe in the gods, which are the humans, to the food. And as this keeps going on, Seth Rogen's character kind of decides, it's like, oh, wait a second. He starts learning from like the Native American guy and from the poor mustard guy that commits suicide and all these things. He starts questioning these gods now. Are these gods actually good people? And then he discovers it through a cookbook and all kinds of stuff, which becomes shocking and everything like that. But what it is just the fact is when he tries to go explain, it's like you can't, when you realize what's kind of like true, you can't just go out and tell everybody they're an idiot and say that their beliefs aren't good. No. You got to ease them into it, because or else they're just going to rebel against it. So like all this stuff going on in it, fantastic message, great premise of that. And then also it's just like the pacing of the film. It was just always going somewhere. And even though that most of it takes place inside of a grocery store, they make each area like almost like a different world. Almost how the way the Lego movie did it, too. And here's a perfect example. You know how we were talking about Suicide Squad last week? How that movie kind of peters out about halfway into it and they just stay in one spot in a sense? This movie kept going places, And by using the stereotypes, it's like, you would go to different food aisles. So you have the Mexican aisle and you have the Asian aisle. And you'd have, even the fruits aisle. That was where all the gays were and everything like that. So the metaphors they would use in there, too, were really good. But it kept changing. And that's what I think made this movie flow in 90 minutes long or whatever it is. Just not a dull moment. Everything good in it.
Something that I think the movie does a good job at. You said that because it's all stereotypes. Because I think when I first saw the first 2 or 3 stereotypes, I was kind of like, oh fuck, this movie's gonna get some shit. Then every single character was doing that as the movie went on. I'm like, oh, every single character in this movie is a stereotype. That's how you kind of get away with that. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that, you know, since it's one of those things, since they're making fun of everybody equally, and then at the same time, like, they're all, none of them are really the villains. The only villain is really the humans and the douche, literally the douche. Yeah. And then, like, I think that it kind of came out like with pretty good. And there's a part where, what was I gonna say? There's like when they first show like the sauerkraut, and the sauerkraut is so obviously Hitler, and it's going after the juice.
Yeah, and I love later on because then like the Native American guy whose name is Firewater, he's a bottle of
voiced by Bill Hader. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love later on. He's like, I wrote those lyrics, but not that part. That part wasn't in there. I love juice. There's nothing wrong with juice. They're funny. Like, I don't know why they changed my song on me. Which I also like too. How like the cool thing about this movie is they got Alan Menken to do that musical number in there, which gives it, you know, the legitimate feel of being almost like this kind of Pixar Disney movie / DreamWorks. And then to top it off, the two directors are the guys that they did like Shrek, they did Monsters vs. Aliens, and a couple other of those DreamWorks ones in the last 10 years. So I think that too also helped at really selling that feel of like trying to make it, you know, that modern CG animation style.
Yeah, yeah. And the movie looks pretty cheap. It doesn't look like the animation and the character design doesn't look anything amazing, but it's something where the jokes are so funny and the message is so good that
I don't really think the animation looked bad at all.
It didn't look
just like anything else at Pixar or DreamWorks.
No,
I mean, some of their ones go a little bit farther, but
I wouldn't.
I mean, obviously, definitely the budget's going to be a little bit lower. It's not going to be the highest, but I don't think it looked bad. Like it didn't look like it was a B movie or anything.
It didn't look bad. I mean, I'm just saying it didn't look anything amazing. It looks like like I don't know. I've seen enough Pixar movies recently, and like I watched Zootopia not that long ago. I know that's Disney's, so that's the next level, but like they have like so many textures and so many little details that they're doing the whole time. You know, they're like sparing no expense. But I mean, the movie didn't look bad. I mean, it's totally watchable. It's not like watching stick figures, but I mean the character designs and all that looked pretty like bare bones. It didn't really like jump out at me. But the thing about it isn't so much the visuals that's amazing about it. It's just the writing and the voice acting and the story itself. I think that's the big thing that really sells the movie. Otherwise, it looks just kind of like another CG movie.
You know what it probably has more of a look like? Is it? I guess you could say almost maybe an earlier Pixar, like almost like a Toy Story time period, like
DreamWorks kind of thing.
Yeah, let's say like a late '90s version, like that. Probably more what it looks like, and maybe that's the thing, because because now I thought about, I'm like, well, yeah, Brave actually has a lot of detail in that one and things like that. But I don't know. I never once thought while watching it, being like, man, this looks kind of hokey or anything like that. It was like, I think for what it was, I almost think the simpler designs work better. Like, there's no reason that, you don't need to have a hot dog that's going to have all these layers going on to it, or anything like that.
I think it worked fine for what it was, and there's no way you can get like. I mean, I was just kind of anything for like an R-rated animated movie. I'm more for that, and that's the thing about this movie. I'm not sure if they're gonna actually like. I'm hoping this movie does really well, because that means more things like this will get made, or this is like the last thing like this is gonna be made for the next couple of years.
Well, it's funny because when I went to the theater in Sonora, there was like big warning posters up there going like, "Warning! This is not a kids movie. Make sure you don't take your little Billy into here. You know, this has adult material. Just because it looks like a Pixar DreamWorks movie doesn't mean it is." And I was talking to the guy at the ticket counter. I'm like, it's not like it's the first like animated like rated R movie. I know it's been a little bit of a while since one's come to the theaters, but they make it out like there never was anything before. There was never a South Park, and there was never a Heavy Metal, and there was never this. But then again, I guess that's a big span between those.
Those are all really spread apart, though. And on top of that, like, you always just get parents, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I remember, like, parents taking their kid to see Bad Santa, thinking that was a kid's movie.
Big Santa.
That's the porn parody. No, that I remember people taking kids to see that, and people taking kids to see Kick-Ass, thinking that was a kid's movie, you know? So, you never know.
Yeah, no matter what, there's just always going to be dumb people out there that, as long as they just don't ruin it for the rest of us, that's all that matters.
They always say, why would they make it look like this? Why would they? You know, people just have no sense of, like, it's a fucking satire, it's a parody, you know, fucking idiot.
Yeah, it's like those parents that would, like, complain about, like, the Batman, like, the DCU ones. They're like, why would they make a PG-13 or, you know, I guess you could say R nowadays, but, like, why would they make this dark Batman movie? It's supposed to be for kids. It's like, are you fucking retarded? It's like, how about you educate yourself before...
Slightly in those people's defense, just slightly, if you go to Walmart All those Batman movies are always in the kids section.
So yeah, no, I know. It's same with Target and everywhere else too. Like, whenever I go into one of those stores, I almost just want to be like, I gotta do what's right and fucking just take this and put it in its right section. Like, it's like, why do they put it right next to like all like the real kiddie stuff? You know?
Just so out of curiosity, because I'm not there in Walmart in Sonora, was the Killing Joke put them next to all the kids stuff? Because that plainly says this one's rated R. Just giving you a heads up. There's a sticker on it.
I don't know, because like it doesn't appear in there until it's after a couple weeks of being new, because it was just in like the new DVD rack. So we'll find out if they have eventually migrate there. Because every other one is in there, so I bet you it will be.
Even though there's an R-rated sticker right on the thing.
Yeah, I bet you it'll be right in there with the rest of them.
So I'm surprised I didn't hear more. Most of the controversy on that movie came from the fans. I'm surprised I didn't hear more from actual like parents being like, I bought this thinking it was like, the Iron Man shit these kids like to watch. Then I find out the clown is like taking pictures of the naked lady in the wheelchair. What the fuck's going on?
Yeah, I'm really actually surprised it wasn't some Fox News, like, some Republican up on there just going, blah, 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 this is horrible. This is why kids shouldn't be allowed to watch things, You can't let fucking everybody out there making whatever they want for animation. Animation's supposed to be made for children. It's supposed to be like Bugs Bunny, because that's the only thing I know.
Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't hear more of that. I'm going to, even though it's going to piss me off, I think I'm going to look and see if I can find anything like that. Just some like it's always just some like fucking soccer mom like that has this vacant stare, like looking off, like I bought it for Tommy, but he was confused. I had to explain things. I didn't know what I was explaining exactly. You see a lot of that type of shit.
Exactly. But I guess going back to Sausage Party, I will say that movie though is just. I look at it like, okay, if Ted 2 is the last like perfect comedy I saw, this one's pretty much up there with it. There's nothing you could complain about. I guess you could nitpick with like anything, but I can't even think of anything wrong with it. It was totally fantastic. And I know that sounds weird because it's like, for how much I always go, Seth Rogen, movie hog, him and fucking Scarlett Johansson are the worst things of cinema, blah, blah, blah. I will always say that if they can make a good thing, I'm going to say, I'm not saying that Seth Rogen's never had good ideas. I know he'll take things that are sort of like, what was the Korean one again? The
Interview.
The Interview. Like, the concept of that movie, so good. And he didn't really deliver on it, which I always felt like, we said this before on the podcast, was like, if Trey Parker and Matt Stone would have had it, they would have had it so fucking dialed in. Mm-hmm. And his, it's not saying there's not moments in it that are funny, but for the most part, he's got to be the cool character that gets the girl. They're going to have they'll have a joke that might be funny, but then they'll do it like 6 or 8 times. So it's like, okay, it's not really funny anymore. Like, you can do it about up to 3 times, but when you start just repeating it over and over and over again, it's like, okay, it's not that funny. And then, trying to throw some pop culture things in there, and then trying to almost make things more raunchy just for no reason at all. Mm-hmm. Where I think in this one, it's just like, and they would almost use these weird like metaphor jokes in it, but they like, for what it was, it'd be like, like, oh, somebody just spilled the beans, and then you'd see a can of beans turn around and look. It's like, oh, you don't fucking say anything. Don't you fucking say it.
Or it's like, oh, go ahead, yeah.
But it was almost like taking just like, almost like those like grandparent kind of like lines, but since it like involved food and everything like that, I thought that it was clever. There was a lot of really clever moments in this and just getting everything going.
Well, I'll say the parts where all the food starts dying, they do a good job of making it look violent and gruesome.
Oh, even the Saving Private Ryan scene?
Yeah. When they fall down, the powder goes everywhere, and they're trying to look through.
I just love how there's like there's like those crosses things that are on Normandy for no reason. Like, why are they there? I don't know. And then I just love because they have all the scenes though. There's like the guy holding his guts in, but it's a spaghetti can and it's pouring out. And then there's the one guy who's looking for like his arm, but instead of looking for his arm, I think he's looking for his lid.
It's like it's an Oreo looking for the other half, and he just has this dumbfounded look on his face.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Like looking around. Then they got the peanut butter and jelly. He's just like wiping, like, I'll fix you, rubbing it across his face.
And then later on, they're like, jelly's or peanut butter's wife, jelly's fucking down the ground. He has to like live with that.
No,
but no, I just thought
I don't give a fuck about PB or J. They got a lot of food puns, but it kind of works.
Yeah, but no, I think they worked really good in this. Well, obviously, I don't know what else they'd work in, but it's like the only movie you could probably use it in. But I felt like that was very clever though for this style.
I'll say I had no idea the Jewish bagel was Edward Norton until I got to the end of the movie, which that was funny as fuck. Just when you see that,
because he was like Woody Allen.
He was like playing the bagel like Woody Allen. Then all of a sudden, this Middle Eastern like a rap, like what was it like exactly like I know what it is.
He was like a flatbread rap.
A flatbread rap coming up that was so obviously it must be like Palestine. They have this constant feud going on the bagel.
Yeah, between Jerusalem, Palestine, and I like. Well, that's what I mean. That's a perfect example. These guys, they hate each other almost for like no reason, just because that's just how life's been. And they do it where like they're separated. There's like because here's where you can buy your flatbread. Here's where you can buy your bagels and stuff like that. And then throughout this time, that they're kind of like the sidekick characters, like the R2D2 C3PO, and they're tagging along. And they just keep bickering and arguing and all this kind of stuff like that. But over time, they realize that like, no, you know what? We're actually really good buddies. And then they become more than friends later on. They just become gay with each other. But
that was the thing about it. Just like they even say like, look, it's a pretty big aisle. Can't you guys share it? No, and they are so obviously it's like so blatantly metaphor. It's hard. It's barely a metaphor because it's so obvious what it is. And like he says, like when I die, like the gods will take me and they will give me 77% virgin olive oil. So,
yeah.
So and then once they get their challenges belief, and then they like a sex scene near the end of the movie starts between the Kristen Wiig bun and Seth Rogen hot dog, and then like the Palestinian fucking rap and the Jewish bagel start to fucking go at it of all things. And then this giant food orgy just happens, and it just so fucking raw the way they show it. Like the audience was all like when I saw the movie. I mean, I was like I said, I saw it like at this theater that's like 21 and up, and it's aimed at movie fans. So it was pretty packed. But was your theater packed at all? Was there a lot of people there?
I would say there was maybe 20 people in there, so not really. I mean, this was Thursday, first showing at 7 o'clock, but it was a decent turnout, but it wasn't like ridiculously packed like a Deadpool or fucking Captain America 3 or something like that. Mm-hmm. I didn't expect that, but
yeah. Well, hopefully this movie does good. I figured I'd like it, but the other thing is I thought they did a good job with the Michael Cera character, which Michael Cera plays a deformed hot dog in the pack, and early on in the movie when they're getting separated, they get separated. Seth Rogen's hot dog and the Kristen Wiig bun get separated, and their groups go over to this house. Like, oh yeah, we're here, we're gonna be with the gods, and that's where the part in the trailer where you see the baby carrots getting eaten, and then like the potato getting skinned and all that. And I'll even say like those parts, like the part when like the Michael Cera's there and he escapes, but like there's the Jonah Hill hot dog. When he dies, he's like, we're almost there at the window. He just gets this look on his face like, and then all of a sudden just this knife comes up and like slides him in half. He just flops down into the sink. And I will say, I mean, look, this movie's not going to stop me from fucking eating. I'm not. I heard some people say like it made me think. Like I didn't fucking think. I was having like nachos while watching this fucking movie. But I will say this movie does a good job though of presenting it like, oh wow, that would be horrifying because they show the part where she's grating cheese on top of
this guy's like screaming to death of his head getting like grated off.
You see the chips looking all like just disgusted, like oh god no, trying to push like chunks of the cheese off them, then getting microwaved, have it melt to their face and screaming, just like can't get out of it.
No, it does a great job of pretty much making it like a holocaust of food.
Mm-hmm. A holocaust of laughter.
With food. No, overall, yeah, it was fantastic. Like I would even go see it again recently. I know I'm
probably gonna buy this movie.
Oh yeah, I would say it's definitely a total must buy. I would recommend it to everybody I would see. It was just like this is funny, and this comes from somebody who's almost like the farthest spectrum of a Seth Rogen movie. But maybe it's because you don't have to see him.
Cisco's still gonna hate it, even though we said this. Cisco's still gonna probably hate the movie.
Yeah, because he hates. If there's someone who hates Seth Rogen even more than me, it's Cisco. So
yeah, keep it local for a minute. But yeah, anyway,
keeping it local where no one understands what's going on. But
unless you listen really, really early on when Cisco's been on the show. But no,
yeah.
But what was I gonna say? Another thing I thought was pretty damn good was like how they had the douche as the villain And
well, it makes sense too because he's a douche, and what is he? He's a douche. Like, I think that was just fucking hilarious, and he's just like, yo, bro, I'm coming in, and he's just always walking on like his fist, you know, like he's kind of like a bodybuilder almost in a sense. And at first he starts off as just this fine guy, but then all of a sudden, once he realizes that his life is getting fucking destroyed, and he's not going to be able to use his douche anymore, and his head's all bent up and everything like that, he gets all like set for revenge.
And he comes across like a juice box, and he grabs the juice, and like the juice box is teared at his crotch. He says like, "This doesn't leave you. This doesn't leave this conversation. This doesn't make me gay." Starts sucking him, starts absorbing all the juice, getting bigger and buffer. And then he's making a line like, "I'm getting juiced," you know. And then like he takes a sticker off the juice and slaps it on like his tear, you know. And then from there on, you see he's like this fiend going around grabbing like other liquids and just like fucking absorbing them. Yeah, and getting bigger as the movie goes on.
I also like too how when they finally showed like they get the one guy who can finally see the food,
James Franco
or whatever. Yeah, James Franco's character, but it's just like what it is just some like total like fat loser looking guy, and like they do a good job just when he comes home he just has this like you look at that place you're like, God, I know those fucking people like that.
Yeah.
and it's like the bath salts he ends up shooting up. He's like, this is gonna be fucking awesome shooting it up. I know people say it's dangerous, but you know, whatever. And I like how he even pulled just like the small details. He pulls up like he printed it off the internet, like how to do it and everything, which would totally be like how someone randomly would do it nowadays. And he shoots it up, and once he finally gets that high going, then he can see the food world in a sense.
You can see the food interacting and talking and all that, and he just starts to fucking lose it. And when like because they're like, you can't eat us no more, you can't do that, you know. Like his little Michael Cera hot dog gets away from him, gets away from the house. But I will say, there's a part when he's walking through. I mean, I guess it could just be a random street, but to him, it came across as a scary ghetto. Like he thinks he sees like a taco, another hot dog for a minute. He says, "Hey, how you doing?" Then it turns out it's a piece of shit, and all the corn turns around. Like, there's a bunch of corn sticking out of it. Turn around, like, "Go away! Go away!" He's like, "Oh," and like backs up. There's a fucking used condom on the ground. It's just like, you can see like fucking cum coming out of his mouth as he's talking to him. He's all like, "They'll use you and throw you away. They use you and throw you away." Like, backs away. And then that's where he comes across like the bath salt guy. And that's where you find out, oh, wait, if they're tripping on something, then they can see us. They can see us talking to them. And then, you know, he wakes up later. He's just like, oh, I was just tripping hard. Not a big deal. And he's about to cook the hot dog. We cut to something else. Then later, right at the beginning of the third act, like where things are about to go really bad, this part just fucking killed me because I was not expecting this whatsoever. Like, the hot dog, the Michael Cera hot dog comes down. He says like, I got a solution. Here's what we can do. What? Then all of a sudden, like, vanilla ships on his fucking head. The human's head just drops down. Fucking mind. We can kill them.
Well, that's what I like too, because it's a character that's like the last person you expect to be like that. It's like, oh, what? And then it goes back to cut like how this guy died, and he's like gonna cook that random hot dog he found on the floor, and then he just ends up tripping and falling through kind of like a couple of other things, spills the hot water on him and everything like that, and he falls backwards, and he's got this axe just like fucking like nerd axe up on the wall, and it falls down, eventually just, you know, chops his head off guillotine style.
And that part right there, I'm just like, we could just kill them. Like, oh, okay. You know. And what they do is they get the bath salts. They end up like they cook the bath salts, they soak them in toothpicks, and they start firing it at all the like arrows at all the people in the store. And then this big, like, you know, people versus food war starts because people see the food and they're freaking out because they think the food's possessed or something. And that part, though, I'll say it's funny because not too many of them go too violently, but it's just like, oh yeah, we killed them, you know, like all the food, and they're just playing it off like, yeah, it's just part of the movie. We killed the humans, not a big deal. But you see like humans just like in the freezer, just frozen to death, you know, mangled and tore up and shit.
No, that's pretty funny. No, really, overall, there's so much going on in this movie, and it's just this amazing one. I kind of wonder what it'd be like to, you know, hear more and more responses from other people, because I haven't really got to talk to a whole lot of people so far that's seen it.
And there's the part where you just had the fucking like that what did you know who was voicing like the main nerd guy who they were all fearing, like when things hit the expiration he takes it off the shelf? Do you know who that guy was?
Who was that?
That was Paul Rudd.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, that's
I didn't realize it till the credits, but then it just some of the small things, like he'd be like, man, and just push the car, like here he comes. They're all scared. That he grabs a pair of hot dogs, like, hate this fucking job. He like kicks like the trash can.
Which you can totally understand for that guy. He's just got the shittiest job, so it's like, of course he doesn't. But it's just that reaction sometimes you get whenever you had to do something really horrible at work and just be like, you just fucking take it out on some inanimate object.
He just pushed the trash, just kicking it, just almost like so temper tantrum like, but it worked though, you know. So and then like the douche goes up his ass and starts to control that guy near the end of the movie. So
yeah, it's just everything in it's just fucking hilarious and great. Like I can't really say much more than how amazing that movie is. Like, I knew kind of going into it, it's kind of going to be one of those points. It's either going to be they're going to do a good job, or Seth Rogen's going to find a way to kind of ruin another good concept.
To Wreck-It Ralph it?
Yeah, that's what I was kind of afraid of. I was like, he's going to Wreck-It Ralph it somehow, some way, where maybe it starts off good, then all of a sudden it fucking becomes this really horrible movie. But no, whole way through, liked everything about it.
Same thing here. Did you actually... different topic. Did you play the Batman Telltale game?
It hasn't come out yet on physical copy.
Oh, you're gonna wait. You're not gonna do the download thing.
Well, I didn't realize they was coming out separately like that. I just pre-ordered it and it's supposed to come out. I think they're doing the thing where like they'll release all the episodes 4 weeks into it and then ship it out, which I thought that was kind of dumb. But I was like, I'll just buy it, get the physical one. So no, I've just kind of stayed away from anything that's got that on there. I'm like, I'll just wait.
No, I get you. Well. Yeah, I
kind of hate that. That's something that bothers me nowadays, though. It's just like that. They do have movies, too, where it's just like, they just want to fuck over anybody who wants to, like, buy a physical copy anymore. It's kind of like, come on, guys, just release the whole thing off. Like, I mean, okay, Batman's an episode, so I guess that's kind of a little bit different there, but I just see that with movies and all that stuff. It's just, yeah, if you're the guy who wants to buy a physical copy, you're pretty much screwed.
No, I get you. I mean, I'm now, like... I don't know. I just figured I'd give it a shot. I'm like, oh, that's already out? No, $5. Okay, then about the season pass third in the line. But, I played it. The first, I'm guessing you probably don't want to talk about it because you probably want to wait to see it if you already pre-ordered it.
Yeah, I'll just ask one thing. Is it a real video game?
It's Telltale.
Or is it like
it's Telltale.
So it's not
You're not moving him
Still.
around. No, it's like basically, it's time-based. Like it's like kind of like Shenmue. It's almost kind of like time. It's like a lot of quick time events. Options to answer questions, which kind of come back to get you one way or another. And then there is the point and click like part of it where you're trying to piece together like when you're at a crime scene.
And that's what I assumed it was. I didn't think it was going to be a real game, but I was like, it's Batman, so I think as long as you're going into it knowing that, that's fine. I think that because I remember I think with Jurassic Park, when they had that one, I think the downfall is when you looked at it in the screenshots, you're like, oh, fuck, just like Dino Crisis, but Jurassic Park style. This would be fucking amazing. And then when you get it, you're like, oh, it's like a Sega CD game from like 1992, or, well, technically 94 or something like that. So you kind of get that, oh, well, that was a 20-year ago time period. Not saying like I love that time period when it was then, but I don't know if those are the games that need to hold up now. So I think that was kind of a letdown there. That's why I never even bought that one. It's Jurassic Park. But knowing that with Batman, like I think that's the thing. It's like, okay, I know it's going to be one of those. I know it's going to be like an interactive movie story thing, so that's okay.
Well, this one, it's much more of a, I'll say, the story's really good. That's something I can say about this game. The story's really good. It's kind of going with Batman early on in his career. They're already kind of having interesting interpretations of different characters. Like Penguin and Bruce actually go back to their childhood. They're actually childhood friends. And the show, it's different interpretations. Like, for instance, we're used to seeing Penguin being short and fat, but he's like kind of a tall, skinny British dude. It's kind of a mix between Arkham Penguin and then the dude
like from Gotham.
In Gotham, like they seem like they're trying to do kind of like a drugged out rock star. He kind of reminds me of Russell Brand. That almost seems like what they're doing. Like he's the kind of guy who, like, he's probably a good looking guy, but he's kind of showing up a little hungover. The 5 o'clock shadow probably stains on his white shirt. You know what I mean? Kind of like that. And his whole thing is like he kind of comes in and says like, "Hey," for a while because he just called him Oz. I was like, "Hey," he's like, "Is that Oz?" He's like, "Yeah, it's Oz." I'm like, "Oh, that's weird." And then like Alfred says, "Well, Mr. Cobblepult has changed." Like, oh my fucking god, really? And then like when there's a part where you meet him over in like a park, and he's having this whole kind of like, "You're my boy, Bruce, but a wall's coming. Be on the right side." That whole kind of spiel. And they're kind of doing a good job getting a lot of characters in there. Which at first I thought like, I don't know. If I heard that, I would be kind of like, "That's how you're presenting him." But I'm assuming at some point he's going to come across a box of Twinkies or something like that, or start getting into alcoholism. But we'll see what happens. But I think it's kind of an interesting interpretation of him. They also had Catwoman in there. They had Harvey Dent as Harvey Dent because you're helping him run for mayor, which I know that's gonna end well, no matter what you do. Main villain of this first episode is Carmine Falcone, so they're kind of going with the usual kind of starter characters.
Well, I might have to actually end up downloading it because I thought it was coming out like in a week or two, but it looks like it's not coming out until September 13th. So maybe I will just cancel that pre-order and just start downloading it. So it's like, whatever. Sometimes it is kind of nicer to almost even have it just download. It sounds so lazy, but when you realize like I don't have to fucking switch the disc.
It's the small things like that.
It really is. I don't know what it is, but some games that I have, I mean, it kind of sucks because you can't.
Such manual labor. Gotta open the case.
It's not really that part. It's more just like, okay, I gotta either go find out wherever the kit game is, where is it at the house, so on, all those like different things. But since that, because I literally thought it was coming out like in a week or something like that. But it's like, oh, that's not coming out till September. It's like, well, that's fucking like an entire month away. So maybe I will end up picking that one up really soon then.
Well, at least it's not like fucking, what was it? I mean, I liked the game, but at least it wasn't like Life is Strange, where that game I was waiting like, I think it came out like every other month or something like that.
That's like way too far apart. Like, I mean, I understand that's like an indie game, but like, you'll have no idea what the fuck's going on. Or you might, the thing about video games, if you can't really play them right away, that's why almost like it kind of sucks when DLC comes out like so much later in a game. Because then you're not in the groove of the game. Maybe you're not even in the mood anymore to play it. I think about that with the other Batman game, with Arkham Knight. Like, by the time lots of that DLC came out, it came out like a year later, and there's a bunch of cool stuff in it. But it's just like you go back to play it, and you're like, well, I can't really remember exactly how to play it. But of course, the difficulty's now like at the highest point possible because it just assumes you've been playing the story mode this whole time. It's like, well, I haven't played it like in a year, so you're just getting your ass handed to you by everybody because you gotta try to relearn the controls while playing with the most difficult enemies.
The only story mode I played was like the Batgirl one. I don't know if there's any other story mode after that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them that came out. There's
a bunch more story mode afterward that?
Yeah, there was a Nightwing one that came out. And then there's a whole Batman section where it's got like, it's just literally an expansion right after, you can play it, just more missions. There's like 6 of them of like different people you can go after. And I just once again, I started it up and it was just kind of like, at the moment just kind of was once like, just not really in the mood for it. Which is it's always kind of a downfall. It's almost like you need to go back and play through the story and then play those DLCs. But you're just not, I don't know, it's because I bet you they're pretty sweet. And I know that they got good reviews and everything like that. And it adds like, a couple extra hours plus of the game, if not more. So.
Was it a continuation of the actual game? Or was it just kind of like, here's a new map where you fight these thugs?
No, it wasn't one of those ones. It was actually like a full on, like, actual story mode. And I can't remember even who the characters were by this point. But yeah, there was actually like, it wasn't a half-assed DLC. It wasn't kind of like the Harley Quinn one, which was like, oh, well, that was kind of cool for its 20 minutes.
The Red Hood one was pretty half-assed.
Yeah, the Red Hood one is identical to the Harley Quinn one. It was like the Red Hood played cool, just like Harley Quinn played cool, but it was just over too fast. It's like, why is that? That should be much longer. And sadly enough, I think there was a Robin and a Nightwing one. I think they were kind of in that same short style, but the Batman one was actually full on into the game, adds 6 more like sections that you can have in your wheel.
Okay, yeah.
So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I'll probably have to check.
That's why I'm not really that big on DLC. I kind of forget shit by the time it actually comes out.
Well, it's kind of like the Fallout Far Harbor one. That one, strange enough, I was able to get that and actually play it and jump right back into it, because that one I was really wondering. I'm like, am I going to jump back into this and go, yeah, I just don't really feel like playing Fallout right now. But I put like a handful of hours in that. I didn't beat it yet, but. It was one of those ones. Okay, that one I was able to jump in quick enough, but yeah. And I know it sounds weird because you almost like, most people go like, I don't want DLC to come out like the next week or something like that, but you almost kind of want the DLC that almost come out like at least in the first month that you got the game, just so you're still in the mood of playing it.
Yeah. Well, I think this one's coming out pretty well. Clearly, the whole thing's coming out pretty soon, but like, because I thought it was gonna be all it might be just like every few weeks it comes out or bi-weekly. Because I remember when Life is Strange, because I was into that game, that took forever for that game to come out. So,
I think those Telltale ones come out like each week for like 4 weeks. It comes out 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the game comes out physical copy, which would make sense.
I'm gonna have to check that tonight, see if that downloaded then, or see if there's another one up by chance by this point.
How much was it to download?
Season pass is like $25.
Oh, okay, so it's $5. That's cool because that's $5 cheaper than the physical copy. I thought it was gonna be the same price as the physical copy, which is always kind of like the hard ones. Like, oh, it's the same price as the physical copy, but
yeah.
But speaking of something else kind of cool. I was actually invited to be a judge on the Berlin International Film Festival.
You literally, the thing literally blacked out for a second when you were talking. What was that?
It's going to say it twice on the podcast, but I'll let you know. I was invited to be a judge on the Berlin Film Festival.
The Berlin Film Festival?
Yeah, the Berlin International Cinefest is what this one was titled. And it's like, okay, you're watching from online. It's not like they're like, we're going to pay for you to come fly out here. That'd be pretty fucking badass. Which all I could think of is just like, say if there's like a panel of like 10 judges, it's like, here we have a fantastic artsy director here who created the most magnificent picture, blah, blah, blah. And then here's somebody, he's got documentaries that have changed the world. And then all of a sudden it gets down to it. Here is a man who created Drunk Batman and Wallaby the Rabbit. I don't know what the fuck that is.
I don't know how he got here. It was mixed in somehow. A typo.
Must have been a Willy Wonka mistake.
He's the one that opened the golden tickets.
Because that's all I can think of. It's like, and from the guy who brought you Drunk Batman and Wallaby the Rabbit.
Did you get it through Twitter? How'd you get it?
It was actually through the Film Fest thing that we submitted Wallaby the Rabbit to. Like the Film Freeway. So that site, they sent one out that like, so I don't know if by submitting ones, then they start putting you in a list of like people to like send to. But I was like, oh yeah, fucking hey, I'll do that. So what happened is like, the festival started like maybe 5 days ago or something like that. Mm-hmm. Maybe even almost a week. But they send you the list and you got like fucking 50. I looked at the hours, like 13 and a half hours worth of stuff. I'm like, well, I'm not going to get through all of that because... Some of us also have other movies to make too. It's just like, holy crap, that's a lot. But I'll just like, I'm kind of trying to like pick based on title what sounds cool or something like that. Even though they don't give any description, you literally just click on it and you just start going, okay, let's see what this is, and you start playing it. And I will say this: I look at some of the other people reviewing it. People are such fucking dicks. I mean, you look at the reviews and it's just like 4 out of 10, and then I'll watch it. It's like, dude, that's pretty fucking good. Like, what the fuck?
Do you need anything more than like, I don't know where the 10 comes from. Do you need anything more than 4 or 5?
Yeah, it's like 10 stars, and they really break it down.
10-star thing, yeah, I don't know.
Well, because here's
good.
It's got like cinematography, production value, acting, sound, music, direction. I mean, they got like a big list. So I mean, they want to get it really dialed in. It's not, I guess, like Newgrounds or something like that, but. All I think of like, are these just like what a Newgrounds like dickwad kid grows up to be? Is a fucking dickwad film freeway like
film just to wait a bunch of free movies and shit on them?
Yeah, and just shit on them because people just go on there. It's just like, oh, it's like this is fucking garbage, fucking shit. 3 out of 10. I can't even. And you're just kind of going like, dude. I mean, me myself, it's too hard for me to like really like harp on somebody else who's creating something.
Yeah.
It's like, why would you kick somebody in the balls who's going out and trying something? You know? And I don't understand that mentality. It's like the guy you kick in the balls is that guy who's like sitting on his couch all day long, surfing through channels. That's the guy you go, hey, get the fuck up and do something with your life. Don't just sit there. If you like TV that much, fucking make TV. Don't just be that person. Even though I guess maybe we need those people. you need
keep ratings up.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe he does have a purpose. Like, so what am I saying? But still, I just think it's one of those ones like, I watched a couple of these ones. Like I watched this one. It was like, I think it was a French one. Had no subtitles or anything like that, but it wasn't necessary for it because it was kind of a little bit suspenseful. And it was cool. It was like 4.5 minutes long. It was all done in one camera take, so the camera just kind of flowed through here, and it's about like this couple and this baby and everything like that. And the baby at first was kind of crying. It's like, this is kind of fucking annoying, so I turned down the volume. And then all of a sudden it kind of goes on, and then they pick up the child or whatever, and then they're moving back and forth, and they set it down, and then all of a sudden it starts like, as the camera's moving around, people start appearing at different areas, and all this stuff like that. It's like, oh, what the fuck? And it's got this kind of like John Carpenter score going on in the background. It's getting kind of creepy and scary. And then also it seems like the baby actually ends up jumping off the fucking like top of the building in France or wherever the fuck they were. And that's how it kind of ends. So far, there hasn't been any happy videos. I'll tell you that.
Well,
so maybe that's where somebody like, because now I know why like we got rejected from so many film festivals, because there's people like, look at this fucking Wallaby the Rabbit bullshit.
I used to imagine just kind of like, because the thing is, I never took Wallaby, but I took some Drunk Batman stuff to It's a Film Festival, and I'd sit through a lot of it, because I'd go to it, and I'd sit through like most of them, and like anything, there's some good ones or some bad ones, and some really stood out, some you just kind of forget. You'd see something like the kind of stare at the usual stuff where it's like, I'm not trying to be a dick, but it sort of seems like, I don't know, and maybe this came from someone who really genuinely went through something like this, but it almost felt kind of like, insert award here. It was a German movie about a girl with depression, narrating the whole time about her husband dying, like I love you, yet I hate you for leaving me in the first place, and it was just this very, just like slow piano, kind of a lot of like, a lot of very bright, like, almost kind of like, whatchamacallit, that kind of like, that, soap opera, like daydream kind of vibe to it in a lot of scenes, and just a lot of scenes of her just kind of walking along the woods with this monologue playing the slow piano, and just kind of describing heartbreak and loss, and kind of like, what is the point? There is no point. Da, 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 that kind of shit. And these like the really high end, like award-winning ones. And I'd be like, here's Drunk Batman. Rabbit with a fucking dolphin.
Well, I almost feel like that's necessary, because I'll tell you this, about half the videos I've seen so far are kind of like, you could say, are described similar to that.
And I'm not talking shit on that person. It's just not I feel like it just kind of runs together at that point. You know what I mean? Some of that's.
Well, I personally, like, once again, I'm not like, this is going to sound like almost like shitting on stuff. It's like, I don't actually like that artsy style filmmaking. Not saying you can't use elements of it, but like the stuff that you see inside film festivals and so on, where I don't know, it's just, there can be some of those ones where it just seems kind of goofy almost. That's my best way to describe it. It doesn't really feel like legitimate, and it's almost like you're not really making a movie that people want to watch over and over again, even for a short. It's like, you want to make something, I don't know, I just feel like you want that sort of fun. There is that saying that when you walk out of a theater, you almost want to feel better than you did when you walked in. And I know that every once in a while there's going to be those certain movies that are going to have that kind of dark, depressing ending, but sometimes you can have that dark ending and have it still totally work. I look at like The Wrestler, for example. Like, I love the hell out of that movie, and that movie ends so sad and dark, but I still have a great time through it, which sounds fucking weird when I tell it to people, but...
In Bruges.
Yeah, In Bruges is another one, too. It's just like... the part even like... I was actually...
I'll kill a little boy!
like since I've watched it so many times, like, I just bust up laughing there now, which is like, if I had to watch that movie in theaters, that'd be that part where you like bust up laughing, people be like, what the fuck is wrong with that guy?
You went to like a special screening of the movie, like, oh yeah, for one night only we're showing In Bruges. Oh cool. They just, I'll kill a little boy, Ken.
I like how In Bruges is what my microphone's sitting on right now. To absorb its like shock.
It deserves better than that, dude.
Well, it just happened to be sitting there, and it was like, well, fuck it, I'm getting started. I gotta put something
it's in
there.
Bruges, that's what you use. You use like, I don't know, Patch Adams for that. You don't use In Bruges for that.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I had it there, but some of those other ones there, it's just funny. It's like, I flipped through the list because you can see that what other people have rated it. I haven't seen any of them that are over like 6.
Really?
Other than myself, because I don't know. I can't just go like, man, this is fucking garbage. Like, I vote everybody's up that, like, as long as they're doing something cool and as long as somebody's doing something, like, I'm happy for those people. I want those people to have a good rating. So, I'll do it like lightly. Like, I'll go like, okay, maybe that's an 8 out of 10 for that, and that's 9. But I stay like in the high range. There was one video I came across that was a little bit kind of weird. I didn't even vote on it because I didn't even know what to fucking say about it. I just kind of went back and then just kept scrolling because what it was like this guy and he was whistling. What song was it? He was whistling, I almost want to say like When the Ants Go Marching In, but not that song. But it was this construction worker guy, and he was in his home or whatever, and he started like putting makeup on, and all I could think of was like Ralph Garman doing like the creepy clown thing
from Hollywood Babylon. Yeah,
because this guy was whistling whatever fucking song it was. I can't think of what it is off the top of my head right now, but as I said, just something like that. It was just like, and he was just like putting on this makeup, and then he was going in, he was grabbing like his construction worker outfit, and then putting on the fucking other eye, and I don't know what it was about. Like, it was like, what the fuck is this?
Is that all it was? Is there
it was
more?
like yeah, it was literally, that was all it was. I watched about a minute of it, and then I did the thing where you click ahead, which is kind of nice. So like, go, okay, let's see if this is gonna, and then 2 minutes more into it, still spinning around. I was like, okay, I mean, I don't want to say, I mean, good job for trying whatever you're into, but I did. I was like, yes, just going to go back on this one. Someone else can vote on
this. You know what? I'm going to give it 10 on makeup.
Yeah, exactly. It was weird because it was just like shot. Like, it was almost like some guy just shot it on his eye. I guess that's the thing, too, because I haven't watched the film festival videos in a while, so it's like, oh yeah, I guess people can just make things on their iPhone nowadays and submit them. Before it seemed like you had to almost have a film camera or at least a decent rig or something kind of set up. Not saying you had to spend a whole lot of money, but you know, you want to spend at least $500 or something like that. Where now it's just like, oh, I guess you can just shoot it with anything you got in your hand nowadays, because that's how it was. It must have been just edited right on iMovie. I'm not saying it was bad exactly, like it was like, oh, this is like complete garbage, but you could kind of tell that it clearly wasn't a whole lot of money spent on it.
Was Wallaby that make it in the festival?
I didn't submit to that one, so I would have voted 10 on everything in that video.
I just see you almost just liking everything just because, like, well, they made something, you know, they did.
Well, that's
something
what I feel. It's like, 'cause maybe it's just myself going like, well, I kind of hope someone would do the same here, but I think what also makes me want to vote all these videos up real high anyways is the fact I just see what everybody else is voting on, and it's just like, dude, what the fuck's wrong with you people? It's like,
well, I'm wondering who else is voting. Is it like other filmmakers in the group since they reached out to you, or
I'm assuming it's just other people that probably have submitted to film festivals before. I bet you that's kind of how it's all drawn out of. So that just means everybody else is a bunch of fucking assholes.
Well, I feel like, I don't know, that kind of shit right there. Like I said, I feel the short films are just hard to do in the first place because you're going off of two things. I think you're either going off of like just a raw motion, and you got to try and build up all this raw motion in just the matter of just like probably 5 to 15 minutes, or even like 2 minutes. It's a really short movie. Or it's something that's like trying to go off of like a twist. So you got to build up enough of a concept and then get to the twist. Or it's something you just got to like make it visually interesting enough. I've seen like some animated shorts that are visually beautiful, but I mean, the story wasn't no real fucking story. It was just a pretty looking animation. So I think that's the kind of hard thing about it. I'm not saying there can't be good shorts, but every once in a while I just fall down the YouTube hole and just look at a handful of them. And the last short that I really liked, it was like 15 minutes long, so it's kind of longer than your average short, was Blackwater Gospel. And that was the last short I can think of. It's like, oh, that had like, I liked the look of it. I liked what it had to say. Kind of another anti-religion one. But
like Sausage Party.
It's like Sausage Party. A little darker than Sausage Party, but I liked the visual style of it. I liked the way it looked. I liked everything about that I liked. And where I feel, and like there is a twist to it, and that's what I feel is like, it's just hard to get all that stuff in there into like a 5-minute. I mean, I know it's doable, but it's hard to do that in this short, I think.
Well, there's some on there that are like 45 minutes and 55 minutes on there. It's just like, who? I look at those, I'm like, I mean, who knows? There could be some real sweet stuff in there, but like one of the ones I turned on, I just looked at it. I think it was the first one I clicked. It was like, oh, it's some Korean film. And it's like, I'll see. I didn't know if it had subtitles or not in it. If it doesn't have subtitles, I guess I'm not going to. I might scan through it and just kind of look for some cool stuff. That sounds horrible. Like, I'll just scan through it. But hey, my vote's going to be great. So
how the process works, folks.
Hey, some of us got to do some animation too. We can't just all sit here for 13 and a half hours and have to watch all these movies in a month.
You ever wonder how all these movies get judged? There you know.
Yeah, it's just like, so far, I've seen some neat ones in there. It's kind of fun because I would pretty much do a little bit of animation, then I'd watch one. And then it's almost like you kind of take a little bit of break, and then you get a little bit of inspiration going, then you kind of go again. And, it's kind of fun, but it's cool to be kind of chosen for that and kind of do that. It's like, oh, they're neat. Plus, I'm glad I'm there because I'm really, And some people too, like I'll get like, even if it's, let's say the video wasn't even that great, like maybe it was like, you know, it was an okay, like realistically maybe a 6 out of 10, but everybody else has voted like 4, 4, 3. I'm like, well, I'm gonna vote this like a 10, so at least it kind of counterbalances the fucking rating system here, because it's not that bad. Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Even the creepy clown one was still creepy, or creepy clown construction worker. He wasn't even a clown. I don't know what he was. He wasn't a mime. He wasn't a clown. I don't even know if he was a drag queen. I don't know what the hell it was. I was confused.
Yeah, there's always like a couple of those videos that are, I mean, you know, I've seen some shorts that I just really love, but then the ones that kind of just, I feel kind of bad because the ones that are bad, but you could see it's somebody trying to like just pour their soul out.
Exactly.
That's the ones I feel kind of bad for, because there's one where it was like so obviously shot like on an old like I mean, you're better with the terms than I do. Those cameras we used back in high school, multimedia, like what kind of?
Oh, the Super 8 tape cameras.
Yeah, basically kind
of like the home. I always consider it's most of the home movie cameras of the 90s.
Yeah, pretty much something kind of like that, like something shot on that. And this is probably like 2008, 2009, maybe even 2010.
So technology is a little bit behind.
Yeah, so something like this came out then, and then it's this guy who, like, you know, this very melodramatic music, and this guy, like, he's having flashbacks to when his girlfriend broke up with him, but it's all taking place in this apartment, and he like kills himself, and, you know, just like she's talking to him as he's going, you know, like mentally in his mind, like, don't worry, it'll be easier now, whatever, you know, just you know, it's just this guy. It was probably written, directed, starred, and shot by the same guy. Yeah. Probably propped up a camera, probably said, dude, will you do this for me? It's really important to me. And it just came out. Those are the ones I feel really bad for, you know, because it's just like, I know this guy is trying to say something, but it just came out so melodramatic.
I know, exactly. I feel bad for that too. But it was sometimes it is kind of nice to see some of those ones like that, because you kind of go, oh well, you know, look at it.
Don't do that.
Well,
this is why we just go for. This is why we swing for the lowbrow shit. We don't got to worry about something like that.
Well, that's kind of the thing I know as a film festivals. I go, man, we're like some of the only people that submit comedies to film festivals. Like, unless, I mean, that's what it's, you know, specifically comedy. But it just seems like for the majority of film festivals, it's like, boy, nothing here is funny. It's just like, you know, everything's always kind of sad. Like, there was this one, which it I don't know if they got the idea from this, but there was a Disney short about this, like, little girl, like, out in the snow, and she's asking for money and everything like that. And everybody's like, oh, the way there, you little ruffian, and stuff. And she keeps asking. It's snowing more and more. It's getting darker and darker. And I think it took place in Russia. I want to say it was in, like, Moscow or something like that, maybe, like, in the 30s or something like that. And then all of a sudden, there's this old lady that comes by, and she's like, oh, well, no, there's all music. It doesn't say anything, but she takes the girl in, takes her home, feeds her a nice warm meal, gets her everything she needs, you know, gets her new clothes, puts her in a bed and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, what happens is as this finally goes on, it cuts back to that street again with the snow, and all you see is a body kind of just laying there frozen, and her spirit goes up with the old lady into the clouds.
I think I've seen that was a Disney short.
Yeah, one of those Disney shorts. So it like real well made, real kind of like, but like sad as can be. But you know, that's kind of like how life is.
Yeah. I think that's based on an old. I'm pretty sure it's based on an old. That's an old Christmas story, I think. Obviously, probably a Russian Christmas story. Like, this is Christmas in Russia.
Children die on the streets all the time. Get used to it. It's like
Merry Christmas.
It's like
good night.
It's not really like even like a touching story. This is like just like, this is a problem we have. Children on the street. Because guess what? Who's got to clean it up the next day?
Sergey.
Yeah, Sergey's job is shit. His job is pure shit.
Dead child pile.
But going back to the film festival, there was this video on there where somebody, because you're really not films anymore, they're all videos. I didn't see a single film. So, well, I'll take it back. I saw one that was filmed. But it was about the story of, like, there was, like, they showed this, like, kind of rich family in, like, England or wherever the fuck they were. And they were sitting there eating, and then, like, this kid had this breakfast and whatnot, have bacon and eggs and everything like that. And the only thing he took was a toast, so his mom, like, threw it away, which for me is like, oh, food being thrown away. Somebody better have ate that out of that trash can afterwards. But still, the whole point of it is then he's driving the car, and there's this like poor little black girl like on the side of the street or whatnot, and it shows her originally like kind of walking through town, so you can tell. But the kid kind of looks at her, and the mom's all like, "Shoo, shoo, get out of here! Out of the way, you heathen! Don't get next to my car and smear your like shit stains on the paint job." You know, one of those kind of moments.
Very classy. Yeah.
And then so it cuts to like the next day, and then the kid has the meal and whatnot. He doesn't finish his fucking bacon and eggs and all that shit, but he takes the toast. And he's holding it in his hand, and like when they drive by that same area again, he's looking for her, and he doesn't see her or anything like that. And the next thing you know, they get back home, and through the mirror, he looks. He's like, "Oh, there she is back there." It almost kind of comes across like a horror movie, like she's just fucking like there. But the movie doesn't treat it that way. So he gets out, and then he looks behind the car. He's like, "Oh, she's not there." And then he closes the door, and then there she is right again.
Mm-hmm.
And then he ends up like. He's like, "Mommy, I'm going to go take my sandwich to my tree house outside." So he goes out there, and then he brings the food to her and everything like that. But then it doesn't show that she eats it. So I kind of knew this was kind of going that direction by all those things. And the next thing you know, he's like, he takes her upstairs, which is also kind of weird too. He's like, "Come to my bed, and here, let me close my blinds on you." Just like, and then all it shows that his mom comes upstairs. She's like, or the dad's like, "Where the fuck's Billy at?" And he's like, "Oh," and the mom's like, "Fuck it, I'll go get him. He's in his room." So she goes upstairs and she opens the curtain. It'd be funny if it just like shows Billy's fucking humping a pillow. See, that's what I would have led to, is something stupid like that.
Billy goes credits. It was an obnoxious song.
You thought this was gonna be such a fucking touching story, and all it was.
In Comics Sans, that's what the text it's written in.
Yeah, just to piss people off. Well, no, what it is, he's like, he's like, "I was gonna share my meal with my new friend," and then he looks, and this like all there's left there is just this like pile of flowers and nobody else. And no, I think it showed it earlier, like when the mom was flipping through the newspaper, it says like, little girl dies frozen on street or whatnot. So it had that same kind of sad, touching vibe without the pillow fucking.
I'm sorry, I'm sure I heard a funny joke, but it's getting all staticky. Yeah.
Well, I was like I say, I thought the only thing that came across was pillow fucking, but.
Or like gives thumbs up, like da 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 da, freeze frame.
But this thing was all nicely shot. Look, I mean, you could tell that it was like, when I say home movie, I don't mean like home movie, but somebody who probably spent maybe $1,000 or so on equipment and everything, and kind of made a nice movie. I don't know if it looked necessarily like everything about it was good, but okay, that movie had like 4 out of 10 from like a couple other people on there. Like, what the fuck do you want?
Yeah, I couldn't do that just because. I mean, even the bad things, I feel bad because it's somebody just trying.
Well, yeah, there's nothing bad with this at all. So I'm
not trying to do the participation trophy thing. I'm not trying to do the Ash Ketchum, but it is one of the things where I don't know, because sometimes you see something like you can't help it, you don't like it, but other things I just feel like nothing good's gonna come of just totally shitting on everything, though. I
know it's so weird that people are so negative on there, but I don't know. What the heck? Speaking of, like, I got this other one, and I thought this was kind of funny. It's not off the film festival, but the other day, like, I had some time to kill before band practice, and I had my fucking movie card that, you pay $30 a month and you get unlimited movies at the cinema. And I only got one movie in so far because I kind of screwed myself, because Batman: The Killing Joke, for some reason I couldn't use it on that because it was a special event. And then also when I ended up seeing Suicide Squad, I had to see it in 3D because the 2D showing was like super late and I couldn't use it on that. So I was like, well, fuck, I got to get in at least 2 more viewings before the end of the month. So it was like Tuesday, and I was like, okay, I'll get off. We got about 3:30 or so, and I got time to kill till about 6 o'clock. So what is playing right now? And I'm flipping through the list of movies. I'm like, okay, most of the stuff, I don't want to start that movie halfway through since I haven't seen it, blah, blah, blah. And I go, okay, this Nerve movie's playing exactly at 3:35. I'll just show up there.
What movie?
Nerve.
Don't know what that is. Okay.
Well, I forgot what it was until I started watching it, and I was like, oh, I remember the trailers for this one, because it was literally just randomly going into a movie, just like that one, and then going inside there, sitting down, and when I started watching, I was like, oh, I know what movie this is. That's that movie that's got Emma Roberts in it, and it's kind of like the social media, like online game thing where they're like, it's almost like the online Truth or Dare movie. I don't know did you ever see any trailers for that thing?
No, I haven't. No.
It was kind of like, it looked, I'll say in the trailers maybe looked a little bit like, it makes sense, but it looked kind of like a little bit goofy, but it was like, okay, you signed up to play Nerve, so you're either a player or a watcher. like one of those kind of things. And if you're a player, you know, they give you dares, and then once you do the dare, or I guess people watching give you dares, and then you get money for it, and it just keeps going on and on and on. And
that sounds kind of cool.
Like, and actually, I'll say this: the movie itself is kind of cool. It's a teen movie almost, you could kind of say, because it's about like these high school kids doing these dares, and so this girl who pretty much ends up, it's fun. They do the kind of thing where it's like, oh, this is just kind of like the nerdy girl that nobody likes, even though it's like Julia Roberts' niece, so it's kind of hard to take that in. Like, yeah, that's
it's kind of like playing the dorky girl that no one wants to fuck is Emma Stone.
Literally, that's what this movie was. It was like that. So it was like she was kind of like the loser. And then it's funny. Then she has the friend who's like the popular girl, but you kind of look at her, you're like, well, she's not very good looking at all. Like, I'm not saying she's bad, but you know, like, that's kind of fucking weird that they do like that reverse thing. But whatever. So she starts, you know, she's mostly just a person. She works like for like the yearbook, and she does the photography and all this stuff. So then after a friend kind of makes fun of her or something like that, she ends up like, fuck it. She's in that fuck it stage. So she starts playing that game. And then she starts getting into it, and it keeps going on through the night. And they're in like New York or whatnot. And Juliette Lewis is her mom. Oh, okay. So that's kind of cool. But the weird thing about this movie is it had this like extreme 1986 feel to it. Like the lighting in it was all 86. Everything was kind of done in these neon tones. And it looked like you were almost watching like those Miami Vice scenes when they're driving at nighttime, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. And then it had this sort of like techno music kind of going on in it,
like The Guest, kind of like that.
Yeah, sort of like that, but also even sort of like how the feeling that Drive had like a vibe like that. I mean, not like the violence part, but that kind of 80s. And even the clothes and outfits they were wearing, like everybody was dressed up sort of in this 80s, but with like a 2016 like vibe too. Mm-hmm. Like it would have, you know, they'd be wearing something that would be kind of like a retro clothing, but then it would have, you know, something modern thrown on top of it. But it was just kind of weird because I was like, oh, I didn't expect any of that stuff in there. And as you know, it goes on. They keep playing the game, and then it turns out to be this thing where it's like, oh, this like, you know, you got to keep playing. You can't stop playing. You know what I mean? You can't snitch on us and everything like that because nobody knows where any of this stuff's located. And you know, so through that, she gets to a point where, you know, she gets like locked up and everything like that, and they have to end up battling it. And her other buddy's like a hacker, and you know, goes on to like this story like that as everything starts escalating. You know, people are dying from playing it and so on. But I will say
is it good?
You know, I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I was, because when I kind of remember seeing the trailers, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's a kind of a cool concept, but it looks maybe kind of like dumb at the same time. Who knows? But I'll say I thought it was pretty enjoyable. I think it's worth watching. I don't think it's one of those movies I couldn't really imagine watching it like multiple times or anything like that. But I think like a one-time watch, like if it comes on Netflix or something like that, it was fun. And for the fact that I was using my movie card, it was kind of cool just to go see some random ass movie like that.
Was it like something kind of like they reached the point where they're daring, like, I dare you to kill somebody, like that kind of shit?
No, they didn't really get to that. It was more like they started off light, and then it was like, okay, go into this fancy store and try on these clothes, and then go into this place and, you know, try to, you know, sneak out of there and so on, and go, you know, climb this. Or there's one part where there's this other random guy doing it. Well, actually, I guess it does get to the point where they have to kill each other, because it gets to a big coliseum towards the end, and they're like, okay, now fucking kill this person. You have to. You're on screen. If you don't do it, you know, we'll, you know, take your mother away or whatnot, or whatever they were doing. I can't remember how that exactly went down. One of those good things.
I noticed the whole 80s thing is kind of big. I mean, 80s and 90s kind of retro things big, because I didn't see it, but It Follows did the whole John Carpenter score thing with the 80s vibe. The Guest did. Drive did. I didn't see Neon Demon, but I heard it kind of had some of that too. So,
well, you know what I think it is? It's because there's a lot of people that are, let's say, the main filmmakers right now are probably in about their 30s, so they're all these 80s kids that are now making all kinds of stuff, and they want to see all the things that they grew up with kind of incorporated in there. So that's why I think we're seeing tons of this 80s stuff. Because even like there's some video games, like there was that game like Gone Home, even though I know it takes place in 94. But you just kind of look at that. It was one of the free games on PSN like a couple months ago. And that one's just very like trying to make it like as 94 nostalgic as possible. It's like you pick up a note. It's like, we went to go see Pulp Fiction today. And, you know, Eddie Vedder on the cover of this magazine and all this other different stuff like that. Just like everything 1994 you can think of.
Is that the game where you're walking around an abandoned house to find out your sister like ran away with like her lesbian lover or something like that?
Yeah, that's the one. I didn't really get. I kind of played it for a little bit, and that was about as far as I got in it.
Because I remember seeing a little bit of the game, like something's gonna jump out, right? This game's gonna get scary. Then it's just like, oh no, it's not. You're just walking around discovering shit. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that they make it kind of scary though. It's like all like thundering and lightning, and it's dimly lit and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, It's one of those kind of games where it's like
it's choice, I guess.
Yeah. It's kind of like it reminds me kind of like a Sega CD game. Whenever I play that, it's weird how that's like almost like a comeback thing. Is these Sega CD games where they're like games but not really games.
Well, I guess when it gets down to it, just everybody has that point. Because I guess to us it seems kind of weird that this is being remade or that's being remade, but I guess to everybody they kind of reach that point where, oh, remember this, remember that? Because while seeing Sausage Party today, they had a trailer for the remake of Blair Witch.
Oh, did they have a trailer for that? Boy, I got the trailer for Bad Santa too instead.
Oh, I thought that was going straight to Netflix. I didn't know that was actually going to theaters.
I guess it is because there was a trailer for it during Sausage Party, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know about that.
Oh, awesome. Well, anyway, yeah, like the trailer for Blair Witch plays, and then Wes leans over. Does it feel like they've been making the same trailer for horror movies for the last like 15 years? But yeah, it kind of does.
I think that's what, because I think about horror movies. They really haven't jumped out at me in like the last 10 years. And I always kind of wondered, is it that thing that when you're not a teenager anymore or a kid, do horror movies stop appealing as much?
I feel like to me, well, first off, I rarely see horror films in theaters. I usually see them on video or no video. Video. I see them on the VHS.
Once they come
on.
I
go down to my local Blockbuster. No. I'll see them like on Netflix or when they come out on DVD or Blu-ray, and every once in a while I'll see one in theaters. But I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm somewhat of a pussy when it comes to horror films. I mean, I'll enjoy a horror film, but I hate jump scares and I hate being in the theater with jump scares, and jump scares just annoy me. So it's just kind of like sometimes like, unless it's something I really want to see, I'll go to theaters and see it. But if not, I'm just gonna wait till it comes out on like Blu-ray. And as far as that movie goes, it looks like they're taking what was smart about Blair Witch, how it was just this big build-up and something weird and fucked up and ominous is going on, and it looks like they're filling it with jump scares. I don't know, maybe I'm 100% wrong there, but that's kind of what it looks like, at least from the trailer.
Yeah, well, because here's the thing, Blair Witch is one of those movies I really respect it as far as what it kind of does, but it's not really a great movie. It's one of those ones. It's just cool for the idea of like, oh, let's just go out in the woods and film some random shit and make it scary. Like, because really the only real good part of that movie is like the last 5 minutes.
Well, it's kind of I kind of get what they're trying to do, and some of it's kind of clever in that aspect. I think that a little more should have happened. Now I'm not talking about like this is where like a fucking or the ground opens up and hell demons start flying out, nothing like that. But I think we should have seen a little more, and maybe I guess part of the thing is you never saw the witch, so that was probably kind of meant to be scary. But I think there's a little bit more you could have done in some aspect. Maybe just like maybe not her, maybe one of her followers or something. You know what I mean? Just show something slightly. But I do find myself enjoying like a movie that you told me about it, and I didn't think I was going to like it that much, but then I liked it a lot. It was actually I felt kind of bad. It was literally. Because it was a low-budget movie, but somebody literally just threw the whole thing right on YouTube. I watched the Willow Creek movie.
Oh, that's doing it right. Because here's the thing. It's funny and entertaining throughout the beginning part, and then it kind of leads up. And everything in it I kind of like enjoy. And even like the 22-minute long scene in the tent works really well. And it's almost like cheap, but that's almost like what makes it nice.
In that right there, that movie, I think something about that I like so much is, I'm glad I didn't watch the trailer for it, but it starts off as like a kind of a dramatic comedy, and not even like a comedy that isn't like, trying to be funny. It's just they're having very realistic conversations. The things they're saying are just kind of funny. That just kind of pans out that way. And then it's not until you get to the very end, like the last 30 minutes of the movie, where it totally turns into a horror film, and you do have this general sense of hopelessness for them. And there's that part where they have to keep moving, but the Bigfoots or whatever are clearly fucking with them, like to the point of like they're keeping enough distance where you can't see them, but they're throwing shit at them. They're throwing rocks and sticks at them, but keeping their distance. And like that idea of like we're going the wrong way. I know that's like in every stupid like we're lost in the woods horror movie, but I mean that one you really do have just this sense of hopelessness in that movie. And I kind of like how it just ultimately switch gears. I like it when a movie can just, you're watching a comedy, oh no, wait, you're watching a horror movie.
Exactly. And I think that's what works really well in it. Well, going back to kind of just talking about horror movies, like I think of the last like real good period of horror movies was about around the mid 2000s, and that's where I kind of come back to that question. Now, does that just have to do with the fact that it like happened to be like teenage years then, and that's why I liked them more because that's when horror movies appeal to you more? I think horror movies almost appeal to you from like 10 to 20, and then I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe they do keep going on. I will say that I almost don't watch horror movies very often anymore, but when I do sit down and watch one, is on a good one, I really do still enjoy it. It's kind of like, I can throw on something like a Friday the 13th or something like that and go, oh man, like I kind of forgot how much I really actually like enjoy these movies, but then I might not watch anymore after that point.
You know what I think it is for me personally, and I can't speak for you, but for myself, I think I'm tired of the slasher monster because I think everybody kind of grows up with their one or two, or if you really love it, handful of slasher monsters. I've never really cared for that, and I came into it late. There are movies I like I do like Friday the 13th Part 2, Part 1. And there's like Evil Dead. I love Evil Dead.
Oh yeah.
But so they're the horror films that do stand out to me, that do like fit all the criteria of other horror films, but just for whatever reason those ones are special to me. Now, I feel like what kind of gets me into a horror film now, if it's showing me, it could be kind of nostalgic, but it's still showing me something kind of different. Like Babadook. Did you ever watch that movie? It was on Netflix.
No, I never watched it. Just because I have Netflix, I almost never watch anything off that.
I was like, no, it's there,
Yeah, it's there. I'm glad that others watched it, but I almost never get around to watch. I don't know what it is. It's like I've watched something so rarely off of it.
Well, basically, it's more of a drama, and then people are gonna say, I don't watch horror films for fucking drama. But I know a lot of people get that way. But I'm just kind of a softie. Maybe I'm a softie or a pussy, but it's basically this lady, she has this kid. It's an Australian movie. This lady, she has a kid. The kid is clearly a little mental and a little off. And, her husband died while she was going into labor. They're driving to the hospital. They got into a car crash. Now she has to raise this kid by herself. And the kid's kind of like always screaming, causing trouble. At some point, you're like, fuck this kid. And they read this scary story of this pop-up book of this monster called the Babadook. And it's this like, man in the black trench coat and a top hat, looks all creepy, looks all scary. Like the illustrations look scarier than what the thing's actually end up looking like. But they still, you barely see it. You see enough. The thing I loved about this movie is it's creepy because the kid sees it, but she doesn't see it. And the thing starts to like stalk them and haunt her. But the thing is, the thing will appear and do scary shit. There's never a jump scare, though. There's never a jump scare. And it doesn't really use any of that, but it's still scary enough. Like, there's a part where there's the lady next door to him who's always nice. And, she's, like, looking through the window, washing dishes at the lady. She's, like, asleep. She's, like, sitting in the front of the TV, just watching television. Then she looks back up. The Babadook, which is, like I said, very pale dude, top hat, trench coat, standing in the corner in the shadows. She's like, what the fuck? She looks back up and he's gone, So there's no like like you hear in every other horror film, Well,
that's what like that. The thing, since you mentioned that, that's what I like in horror movies. I call it the creep factor. It's not really. It's that thing that the jump scares when you mostly utilize sound. And you know what I mean? But like the creep factors, you can pretty much if you take out the sound and you just put like something. I just love things like where it's just something standing in the background and you're just like, what the fuck is that? And you can have it in even like movies that aren't even horror movies. And I think that's like, it's a really cool way to utilize it. But that's what that sounds like right there. And that's my favorite part of horror movies. That's what makes something like The Exorcist really cool.
Yeah.
I will say, or continue on. No, you go up the Babadook.
Well, I was going to say something about this particular movie was it wasn't just another, like, let's show something fucked up. There's some fucked up stuff that happens in the movie. It's not really super gory or anything like that, but it's much more, at some point, she's possessed by the thing. And, she's acting all crazy and trying to kill her kid, but then other stuff happens. And it ultimately ends on a happy note, but it ends on this note of, like, the movie's ultimately, more than anything, about dealing with depression. Which, I guess if you can show a horror film be genuinely creepy and have something to say, then I give that a lot of credit. Because I feel like now we're at the point where you can show a horror film with a lot of guts and a lot of gore, and there's an audience for that, and that's totally fine. But I feel like I've seen that so much by now. And if you could show a horror film that actually has a little bit more to say than just kind of like, isn't this fucked up? Then, I'm kind of interested.
And I think this is the other thing I think of horror movies too, is I think almost the advent of like digital almost makes horror movies not nearly as cool. I think that what you need with horror is you need a lot of real stuff. And that's why 70s and 80s and even 90s movies, when you kind of get, it's the special effects is almost what makes horror movies so cool. That's almost like the art and magic of a horror movie. Is like when you see something fucked up, you're like, dude, somebody fucking created that, Not like, oh, it's a digital monster, which that just, I don't know. I feel like when it's a digital monster, it's like, well, clearly it's not real. That's like showing me like a ghost. It's like fucking watching Casper or something like that. It's like, I know Casper's just a digital ghost. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that almost in itself is something that's kind of always missing. And not saying that there's not ones out there that don't, do something cool. But maybe, I don't know. Another thing, too, this sounds so weird. I think one of my favorite ways to watch horror movies is, and you sort of mentioned this, is VHS. Like, I don't know what it was. Like, that look of a film that's already film grainy, and then you throw that on a VHS with its kind of graininess, it gives it that special feel. Now, that might just be nostalgia right there. But I almost feel like when you're watching, like, a crisp, clean, Blu-ray version of a horror movie that, like, just came out, like, a year ago, I don't know what it is. It's like, there's almost, I feel horror movies need to have that, like, where they don't look so good. There's something scarier when it kind of looks, that's almost a perfect movie to be shot still on, like, a 16mm film camera as a horror movie.
Mm-hmm. There's, like, another thing, I mentioned this before, when you can, it's partially more science fiction mystery. I'd still say there's enough there to call it horror. Mm-hmm. Partially horror, not entirely horror. Check out Stranger Things. It's kind of like a total homage to the 80s, like 80s like genre horror and science fiction. And it even takes place in the 80s, and it kind of has a little bit of like that kind of Goonies vibe because it's very Spielbergian. Even like the card for it when you go on Netflix is like there's that one guy who did all those main illustrations for a lot of like the big 80s and 70s movies. It's something done by him.
And what's it called again?
Stranger Things. It's a Netflix original show.
Oh, yeah. I saw an article on that. That's where the guy drew it all on the iPad Pro, or at least the main sketch.
What? The sketch? Oh, you mean the sketch of the show of the
yeah.
Show. Okay.
No, he drew everything in the show too. He like continuously drew every frame. It looks so realistic.
I was gonna say. No, I thought we were talking about something else here. No. Well, maybe it's not that guy. Maybe it's made it look like that guy's work though. It's like one of the few times you see an illustrated poster. You don't never see those anymore.
Yeah, because I saw that poster for that. Now was that a movie or a TV show?
It's a TV show, but the thing
that's what I thought.
It's got your girl Winona Ryder.
Oh, Winona Ryder's on it? What?
She's like the main character, just about. One of the main characters. It's like several stories going on that link all together, and Winona Ryder's one of them, so, yeah.
Huh. That's sweet. I'll have to check that out, but... Yeah, those horror movies. I don't know. I'm always looking for the next good one, and it's the weirdest thing is because you'll watch the trailers, and it's like either the movies look dumb, and I know horror movies are kind of hard to sell in a trailer. I don't think it... You really can't make a horror movie look cool in a trailer. They're always going to look stupid. Even ones that are good, they just look stupid in a trailer. But the other dumb thing, too, is like you'll come around October when you think there'll be all these horror movies, and there's like nothing. There's like a sci-fi movie that's probably the closest thing you're going to get to that horror movie. Like
the last horror film I could think of that I really liked, and I'm not even sure if it's full horror. It's maybe you call it sort of horror. It's more suspense, but like the Guest.
Yeah, it's weird how that is. It's just I don't know. It's just kind of like a genre that I want to find something cool. Like I always kind of go like in the theater. It's like I want to see another horror movie in theaters. I haven't seen one in so long. But then you kind of see something like, well, that doesn't look very interesting. Oh, that looks okay. That looks kind of like something that I've already seen before.
I find myself more interested in things with horror elements than straightforward horror films.
I think so. I love horror elements are great, especially when you can throw them into like a drama or something like that and not be expected. But yeah, well, that's probably a good place to wrap this all up with before we go too long into the fray. Make sure to check out Old Man Orange for more podcasts, cartoons, music, and more. Till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan.
We will see you some other time.
Later, folks.
Thanks for listening to the Old Man Orange podcast. Check out our website at oldmanorange.com for even more podcasts, cartoons, videos, music, and more. Send us an email at oldmanorangepodcast@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review us on iTunes, Podomatic, or any of the other fine sites we might be located on.
And if you want to help out even more, click on the Amazon or GameStop links on our webpage before you make any purchases there. It won't cost you a penny, but it sends us a little something our way. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week to Old Man Orange.